Welcome, gentlemen. Article we're going to be talking about, new development here, is the trend of office to industrial conversions. In a report earlier this year, Brokerage Network found that 15.2 million square feet of offices nationwide have been converted to industrial use. That's a 33.7% increase in just 2 years. At the end of 2022, the firm found U.S. vacancy average for industrial properties was just 3.8%, and that's versus 18% for office property. The study found that a majority of the 15.2 million square feet was new construction of buildings designed for storage, built in the wake of teardowns of office stock. This is a reversal of a trend that dominated the 90s and early 21st century of conversions of old, obsolete industrial buildings into offices. So we're now starting to see things move in the opposite direction. Your thoughts?
Well,
You want to take this, Jeff? You want me to go first?
go ahead.
My first thought off the bat is the buildings that were converted in the 90s to office were dilapidated and abandoned because there was an oversupply. And you're seeing a reversal of office back into industrial as a quote unquote oversupply. I would disagree. But the biggest thing that I'm seeing is that when there's a trend, the pendulum swings too far. So I we personally have not looked at storage deals, and a lot of industrial deals. It's too saturated. There's too much supply, and the more you add to it, the worse it's going to get. What that's not pointing out is the trends of the rents and the trends of the vacancy rates at those industrial projects. And I can tell you, rates have come down, and you can't increase them, and you can't maintain them, and vacancy has started to creep up. A lot of lenders have kind of shied away from industrial for that exact reason. The people that know the best are the people with the deepest pockets that can have access to the most money and do the most research. And if they're staying away from it and we can't even get a loan from it, it's not looking like it's the best place to park some money right now, at least from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I think also in this article kind of pointed at this without calling it out directly. A lot of this really involves older rundown offices where somebody's looking at the decision of, do I put a lot of money in to revitalize this or tear it down and put up another office? And they're just coming to the decision of, you know what, I'm just going to convert it into into industrial because that's the hot space right now. But this isn't really a trend of taking, like, really high grade office properties and going in there and turning it into a self storage center.
Well, look, my comment where I was going to start is, is not where Zach was, but I do agree with the sentiment. But I do think it's kind of interesting from the concept of office to industrial and urban infill. Where somebody is a manufacturer or light manufacturer wanting to come into a space, maybe it is interesting, but that's a very difficult transition because you're talking about vertical, and most industrial needs horizontal, not vertical. So it really sounds like it's really going to be stuck to suburban. And maybe it does help dilapidated, suburban former offices to their former glory or to some former glory, but truthfully, to what extent? I think, Zach hit the nail. Industrial is burdened with low cap rates and rental rate reductions. That's a problem. There's not that much manufacturing that's going on in the United States, from that, at least from what I see, to fill all of that industrial. I mean, I think Zach and I had tried to look at a couple of them a few years ago, and they were big brand names that were 400 or 500 million square feet industrial properties, kind of suburban areas that we just couldn't wrap our heads around because what are you backfilling with?
That's kind of the biggest thing that you find is a lot of the area that this happens. I mean, the well-located product is not disappearing, to both of your points. The less well-located product, or the product that's been neglected, converting it does make sense to some extent. I don't know if it is a pure industrial conversion more than a mixed use or a residential or some other retail or support logistical. But Jeff, you're right. There's not enough manufacturing that can take all that space. There's already a plethora of storage, and you can only have so much storage. There's only so many people with so many things to put to so many places. Some of the stuff that we saw when they call it industrial, that's a misnomer. It's actually flex space and it has a lot of office in it. They
Yeah.
just like to call it industrial because that's a hot keyword, it's a buzzword. Case in point is the science and technology, research parks that they classify as industrial, but are really their office.
Yep.
And people are going in and they're doing manufacturing, they're doing R&D, stuff like that. And even that's become too saturated at this point. I think the conversions, again, the pendulum swings too far too quickly. You're going to find a lot of these projects don't make it off the ground, and a lot of ones that already exist are going to suffer for it.